Commander James Miller stood at the observation deck of humanity's last major space station, his weathered face reflecting in the reinforced glass. The endless void of space before him was lit up by distant explosions, more human ships being torn apart by the enemy's superior weapons. "Sir, we've lost contact with the Mars Defense Fleet," a young officer reported, his voice trembling. "The Jupiter line has also fallen." Miller didn't turn around. His eyes were fixed on the golden-hulled enemy ships, their sleek designs making human vessels look like crude toys in comparison. These invaders, who called themselves the Bright Ones, had appeared 6 months ago. Since then, they had methodically destroyed every major human military installation in the outer solar system. "How many ships do we have left?" Miller asked, already dreading the answer. "Less than 300 operational vessels, sir. The enemy." The officer paused, swallowing hard. "They have over 10,000 approaching Earth." The numbers were impossible to fight against. Humanity had thrown everything they had at the Bright Ones. Nuclear weapons, antimatter bombs, even experimental quantum disruption devices. Nothing worked against their golden shields. Their allies, the peaceful traders from Alpha Centauri, had already retreated after losing half their fleet in a single battle. Miller finally turned away from the window, his boots making heavy sounds on the metal floor as he walked to the central command table. The holographic display showed Earth's remaining defenses, a thin blue line against an overwhelming sea of golden dots. "Sir," another officer spoke up, "High Command is suggesting immediate surrender. They say we might get better terms if we—" "No," Miller cut him off. His fist tightened on the edge of the table. "Surrender means slavery. We've all seen what they did to the colonies they captured." The room fell silent. Everyone knew about the horror stories from the outer colonies, entire populations forced to work in deep space mines, children separated from parents, the systematic destruction of human culture and history. Miller straightened up, his mind racing. There had to be something they hadn't tried, some weapon or strategy they had overlooked. He thought about the ancient archives, filled with records spanning thousands of years of human space exploration. "Get me access to the deepest archives," he ordered. "Not the public ones. I want the restricted sections, the ones containing records of the first space explorations." "Sir," the communications officer looked confused. "Those archives are mostly myths and unconfirmed encounters. What are you hoping to find?" Miller walked back to the window, watching another human ship explode in the distance. "The galaxy is old," he said quietly. "Humanity isn't the first species to face extinction, and I refuse to believe we're the most powerful beings to ever exist out here." He turned to face his crew, his eyes burning with determination. "There are stories, legends of ancient weapons and creatures that once ruled these stars. If even one of those stories is true, if there's even a slight chance we can find something to turn this war around." He let the words hang in the air. "Get me those archives. Now." As his crew rushed to follow orders, Miller looked back at the approaching enemy fleet. They had maybe 3 days before the final assault on Earth began. 3 days to find a miracle, or humanity would fall. Deep in the lowest level of the space station, Miller sat alone in the archive room, surrounded by holographic displays of ancient texts and records. His tired eyes burned from reading thousands of reports, most of them useless tales of first contact and failed expeditions. "Computer, filter out all records after the year 2200, he ordered, rubbing his temples. The displays flickered, and most of them disappeared. What remained were the oldest records, from when humans first ventured beyond their solar system. A particular file caught his eye, its edges glowing red, marked as maximum security clearance. Miller entered his commander codes, and the file opened, projecting a massive creature across the room. His breath caught in his throat. The hologram showed a massive space-dwelling creature, its body like a giant worm, stretching longer than 5 battleships placed end to end. Its skin seemed to absorb light, covered in what looked like natural armor plating. "Computer, Play attached video record, Miller commanded. The hologram changed to show an old recording. A massive creature moved through space, its body rippling like a sea serpent. Then, to Miller's shock, it opened its mouth and literally swallowed a small moon hole. Report dated 2184. The computer began reading. First encounter with entity classified as Star Devourer. Vessel was lost with all hands except Captain Roger Wells. Final log entry follows. The captain's voice, filled with terror and awe, filled the room. The creature consumed the mining colony's moon like it was nothing. Our weapons didn't even scratch it. But the strangest thing, it showed signs of intelligence. It avoided civilian ships, only attacked military vessels, almost like it was following some ancient protocol. Miller leaned forward, his heart racing. Computer, any records of where these creatures came from? Multiple unconfirmed reports suggest the Star Devourers were created by an ancient race as peacekeepers. They were designed to prevent interstellar wars by consuming aggressive military forces. What happened to them? Last known location: the Dark Nebula, Sector 7. Records indicate a massive containment operation 10,000 years ago. The Star Devourers were trapped and put into forced hibernation by unknown means. Miller stood up, his mind racing. A weapon that could swallow ships whole, that their ancestors had feared enough to imprison. Could it be controlled? More importantly, could it be aimed at the Bright Ones? He quickly copied the coordinates and relevant data to his personal device. As he turned to leave, a final note caught his eye. Warning: attempts to communicate with Star Devourers resulted in mental breakdown of all subjects except one. Subject displayed unusual brainwave patterns suggesting partial telepathic compatibility. Miller rushed to the command center, his heart pounding. They needed a team. They needed a ship. Most importantly, they needed someone who could possibly communicate with these ancient creatures. As he reached for the communicator to contact High Command, an alarm blared through the station. The Bright Ones had broken through the outer defense line. They now had less than 2 days before Earth's final battle. Miller looked at the coordinates in his hand. The Dark Nebula was 3 days away at maximum speed. They would have to move fast. The stealth ship slipped through space like a shadow, its dark hull absorbing any light that touched it. Miller had chosen the smallest, fastest ship available, the Scout Runner, for this unauthorized mission. They couldn't risk being spotted by either the Bright Ones or their own forces. Hull temperature rising, the pilot warned. The cloaking system is straining. In the cramped command room, Miller looked at his hastily assembled team. Besides the pilot, he had brought Anna Reed, the youngest but most gifted xenobiologist in the fleet, and Tom Banks, an expert in ancient technology. Both had volunteered despite knowing this mission was probably a one-way trip. How long until we reach the nebula? Anna asked, studying the data about Star Devourers for the 100th time. The soft blue light from her screen highlighted the dark circles under her eyes. 6 hours, Miller replied. Assuming we don't run into any. The ship suddenly lurched to the side. Red lights flashed across the deck. Bright One patrol, the pilot shouted. 3 ships coming around that asteroid field. Miller grabbed the command console. Kill all non-essential systems. Everyone quiet. The ship went dark, drifting silently. Through the view screen, they watched 3 golden ships of the Bright Ones glide past, like deadly predators. One passed so close they could see the strange patterns etched into its hull. Minutes stretched like hours until finally, the enemy ships disappeared into the distance. That was too close, Tom muttered, wiping sweat from his forehead. Commander, look at this. He pointed to his scanner. The dark nebula loomed ahead of them, a massive cloud of black gas that seemed to swallow all light. But within it, something was giving off faint energy readings. Those patterns, Anna said, comparing them to her data. They matched the biological signatures of the Star Devourers, but much weaker. They must be in deep hibernation. The Scout Runner entered the nebula. Visibility dropped to 0 as thick clouds of dark gas surrounded them. The ship's sensors were their only guide now. There, Tom pointed at a new reading. Artificial structure ahead. It's huge. As they drew closer, their lights revealed an ancient space station, its design unlike anything human or bright one. It was built like a massive cage, with giant energy barriers creating cells large enough to hold creatures the size of small moons. "How do we get in?" the pilot asked. Tom studied the readings. The station still powered barely. Its security systems are running on minimal power. "We might be able to." A massive shadow passed over their ship, making everyone freeze. Through the dark gas, they caught glimpses of something enormous moving, a rippling, segmented form that seemed to go on forever. "One of them is awake," Anna whispered, her eyes wide with wonder and fear. Miller made his decision. "Take us in. Aim for that docking port. We didn't come all this way to turn back now." As their ship approached the ancient station, none of them spoke. They all knew that either they would find humanity's salvation here, or they would die in this dark place, far from home. Either way, there was no turning back. The ancient station's corridors were massive, clearly built for beings much larger than humans. Miller's team moved carefully through the darkness, their footsteps echoing off metal floors that hadn't felt life in thousands of years. "The main control room should be ahead," Tom said, following a holographic map projected from his device. "These symbols match the ones we found in the archives." Anna stopped suddenly, pressing her hands against her temples. "Can anyone else feel that? Like a pressure in your head?" Miller felt nothing, but he'd read the warnings about telepathic effects. "Stay alert." The reports said these creatures could affect human minds. They entered a vast chamber filled with ancient control panels. Enormous windows looked out into the nebula, and through them, they could see their first clear view of a star devourer. The creature was beautiful in a terrifying way. Its body stretched for miles, covered in plates that looked like black diamonds. As it moved, its segments rippled with patterns of bioluminescent light. "It's in a containment field," Tom reported, studying the controls. "But it's not fully asleep. The readings show brain activity." Anna walked to the window, placing her hand on the cold glass. The massive creature turned, as if sensing her presence, and moved closer to the station. Its head was the size of a small city, with no visible eyes but covered in sensitive-looking organs that pulsed with light. "The pain in my head," Anna gasped. "It's trying to communicate." Miller moved to pull her back, but she waved him away. "No, wait. I can almost understand." The star devourer pressed closer to the window. The lights along its body began pulsing in complex patterns. Anna's eyes went wide. "It's showing me images," she whispered. "I can see. A war. Many wars. These creatures, they were guardians. They protected younger species from extinction by stopping conflicts before they could spread." "Can it help us?" Miller asked. "Can it fight the bright ones?" Anna's face twisted in concentration. "It's angry. They were betrayed, imprisoned by the same species they protected. But," she pressed her forehead against the glass, "it wants to see what I'm seeing. About our war." Miller watched in amazement as Anna's body tensed, her eyes squeezed shut. The star devourer's lights pulsed faster, almost strobing now. Suddenly, Anna stumbled back. "It knows. It sees what the bright ones are doing. It wants to help." "How do we free it?" Miller asked. Tom was already working at the controls. "The containment field runs on ancient power cells. If we overload them—" The whole station shuddered. Through the window, they saw the energy barrier flickering around the star devourer. "Wait," Anna said, her voice filled with awe. "It wants me to do something first. It wants to bond, a permanent connection, so it can understand us better, work with us." Miller looked at her with concern. "The risk." "We don't have a choice," Anna said firmly. "And it's not asking anyone else. It chose me." As the containment field continued to weaken, Anna placed both hands on the glass. The Star Devourer's lights pulsed one final time, and she screamed. The bond was formed, and the ancient prison began to break. Anna lay on the cold floor of the control room, her body shaking as her mind adjusted to the alien presence now sharing her thoughts. The Star Devourer floated outside, its massive body curled protectively around the station. Anna. Miller knelt beside her. "Can you hear me?" She opened her eyes, which now had a strange, shimmering quality to them. "I can hear everything," she whispered. Its name, not in words, but in feelings. Like the sound of stars dying and being born. Tom worked frantically at the controls, monitoring the situation. "The other containment cells are starting to fail. We need to get out of here." But Anna smiled, a peaceful expression crossing her face. "No, we're safe. It won't let anything harm us now. The others, they're curious. They can feel our presence through our bond." Miller helped her stand, watching as she walked unsteadily to the window. Outside, the Star Devourer's lights pulsed in sync with Anna's heartbeat, visible through her skin, which had taken on a faint, luminescent quality. "They were created to be guardians," Anna explained, her voice distant. "Engineered by an ancient race to protect younger civilizations. But some species grew too powerful, too afraid of being washed. They trapped them here, forced them to sleep." The station shuddered as more containment fields failed. Through the windows, they could see other Star Devourers awakening, their massive forms uncurling like flowers blooming in the void of space. "How much control do you have?" Miller asked, trying to stay focused on their mission. Anna turned to him, her eyes glowing softly. "It's not about control. We're partners now. I can guide it, suggest things, but it has its own mind. A beautiful, ancient mind." She paused, touching her temple. "It's showing me how to work with it, how to direct its power." As if to demonstrate, the Star Devourer outside moved, its body rippling with waves of light. It opened its massive mouth, and a beam of pure energy shot out, cutting through the nebula's dark clouds. "That's how they fight," Anna explained. "They can channel the same energy they use to devour celestial bodies. But they need our guidance to know what to attack." "The bright ones won't know what hit them," Tom said, grinning. But Miller noticed Anna swaying slightly. "Are you sure you can handle this? The bond seems to be taking a toll." "I'm adjusting," she said. "It's like learning to breathe underwater. Strange at first, but natural once you understand it." She smiled again. "And I'm not alone. It protects me, shares its strength. We protect each other now." Through the windows, more Star Devourers approached their newly awakened sibling. Their lights pulsed in complex patterns, communicating in their ancient language. "They want to know about Earth," Anna said. "About our war, about why we came here." She turned to Miller, her expression determined. "I've shown them everything. They want to help. Not just one of them, all of them." Miller looked out at the gathering of ancient creatures, each one capable of destroying entire fleets. For the first time since the war began, he felt hope. "Then let's go save Earth," he said. The Star Devourer's lights pulsed in agreement, and Anna's eyes glowed brighter. The real war was about to begin. The scout runner raced back toward Earth. But now it wasn't alone. 5 Star Devourers moved through space alongside them, their massive bodies creating waves in the fabric of space itself. At the head of the group was Anna's partner, which she had started calling First Light, after the patterns it made when communicating. "Enemy fleet detected," the pilot shouted. 3 Bright One cruisers on an intercept course. Miller gripped his chair, but Anna remained calm. Through the bond, she felt First Light's eagerness for battle. "Watch," she said softly. The Star Devourer moved ahead of their ship, its body rippling with building energy. The golden ships of the Bright Ones, each one larger than a city, suddenly looked tiny in comparison. "They're launching weapons," Tom reported. Beams of golden light shot from the enemy ships, but First Light's armor absorbed them like they were nothing. Then it opened its massive mouth, and a wave of pure darkness swept out. The Bright One ships vanished completely, devoured in seconds. "High Command is hailing us," the pilot said, his voice shaking with excitement. "They've detected our approach, and our companions." Miller took a deep breath. "Put them through." The angry face of Admiral West appeared on their screen. "Commander Miller, you stole a ship, abandoned your post," and his voice trailed off as he saw Anna, her glowing eyes and shimmering skin. "What have you done?" "Saved humanity," Miller replied firmly. "Sir, we found a weapon. Better than a weapon. We found allies." Through the video feed, they could see people in the background of the command center staring in awe at their own view screens, watching the Star Devorers approach Earth. "The Bright Ones have broken through Jupiter's defense line," West said, his anger replaced by desperate hope. "They'll reach Earth in 6 hours." "We'll be there in 4, Miller assured him. He looked at Anna. "Right?" She nodded, her eyes distant as she communicated with First Light. "The others are eager to fight. They've been imprisoned for so long. But they remember their purpose: to protect." Suddenly, she gasped, grabbing her head. "Anna." Miller moved to help her. "I'm fine," she said quickly. "The bond. It takes energy to maintain. First Light is trying to share its strength, but human bodies weren't designed for this." Miller frowned. "Can you hold on until we reach Earth?" "I have to," she said simply. Looking out the window, she watched First Light's lights pulse in patterns of concern and determination. "We're connected now. Its strength is my strength." The ship's sensors beeped again. "More Bright One ships approaching," the pilot reported. "A lot more." Through the view screen, they could see a wave of golden ships moving to intercept them. But Anna smiled. "They don't understand what they're facing," she said. "These beings were ancient when the first Bright One ships learned to fly, and they remember every battle they ever fought." The Star Devorers moved into attack formation, their bodies glowing with building power. First Light took the lead, its massive form casting a shadow over their small ship. Earth lay ahead. The enemy waited between them and home. The real test of their bond was about to begin. The space around Earth had become a graveyard of broken ships. Golden fragments of Bright One vessels drifted everywhere, as the Star Devorers tore through their fleet like ancient gods of destruction. First Light moved with deadly grace, its massive body weaving between enemy formations. At each turn, its mouth would open, releasing beams of dark energy that erased Bright One ships from existence. Through their bond, Anna guided its attacks, making sure no human or allied ships were caught in the destruction. "Their main fleet is changing course," Tom reported from his station. "They're retreating." "No," Anna said, her glowing eyes narrowed. "They're gathering for a final attack. I can feel their minds. They're afraid, but also angry. They've never faced anything like this." The Bright One's remaining ships, nearly 1,000 of them, formed into a massive sphere. Energy began building between them, creating a web of golden light. "They're going to fire everything at once," Miller realized. "Can the Star Devorers handle that much power?" Anna didn't answer immediately. Through First Light, she was communicating with the other ancient creatures. Their lights pulsed in complex patterns as they formed a plan. "Yes," she finally said, blood trickling from her nose as she maintained the intense mental connection. "But we need to do something they haven't done in 10,000 years. They need to hunt as a pack." The 5 Star Devorers moved into a perfect pentagon formation, their bodies starting to glow with building power. First Light took the lead position. "Energy spike from enemy fleet," Tom shouted. "They're firing." A beam of golden light, larger than anything they'd seen before, shot toward Earth. But the Star Devorers were ready. All 5 creatures opened their mouths at once, releasing their own energy beams. Where they met the Bright One's attack, space itself seemed to tear. The golden light was consumed, drawn into the darkness of the Star Devourer's combined power. "Now!" Anna screamed, her body arching as she channeled more power through the bond. The Star Devourers surged forward as one, their bodies moving in perfect synchronization. They spiraled around the enemy fleet like a massive net, their energy beams connecting to form a sphere of darkness that enclosed the Bright One ships. "Dear God," Miller whispered as he watched the massive creatures begin to contract their circle. The sphere of darkness grew smaller and smaller. Inside, they could see the golden ships trying desperately to escape, but there was nowhere to go. With a final pulse of energy that shook nearby ships, the Star Devourers closed their trap. When the darkness cleared, the enemy fleet was gone, completely devoured. Anna collapsed, blood now flowing from her ears. "They've forgotten nothing," she whispered. "All their ancient power, their coordination, it was just sleeping, waiting." First Light moved close to their ship, its lights pulsing with concern for Anna. The other Star Devourers spread out, hunting down the remaining enemy ships that had tried to escape. "Is it over?" Miller asked quietly. Anna smiled weakly, her skin still shimmering with the bond's power. "Almost. But the Bright Ones will be back. They'll bring more ships, thinking they can overwhelm us." Her eyes glowed brighter. "Let them come. We're just getting started." In the peaceful aftermath of the battle, First Light floated near the scout runner, its massive body curled protectively around the small ship. Inside, Anna sat in a medical chair while doctors examined her, trying to understand how her body was adapting to the alien bond. "Your cellular structure is changing," one doctor said, staring at his readings in amazement. "But it's not harmful. It's like your body is evolving to handle the connection." Miller stood nearby, watching through the window as the other Star Devourers cleared debris from Earth's orbit, carefully separating human ship remains from enemy wreckage. They moved with surprising gentleness for creatures their size. "They want to show us something," Anna said suddenly, her glowing eyes distant. "Through me, their true history." She reached out and touched the window. First Light's body lit up with patterns of light, and suddenly everyone in the room gasped as images filled their minds. They saw the Star Devourer's creation, born from the dreams of an ancient race that had seen too many civilizations destroy themselves in war. These massive creatures were designed to be both warriors and peacekeepers, powerful enough to stop any conflict, but wise enough to know when to intervene. For thousands of years, they had maintained peace in the galaxy. Young civilizations grew under their watch, knowing that aggressive expansion would bring swift consequences. But then came the betrayal. A group of advanced species, fearing the Star Devourer's power, worked together to trap them. They created the Dark Nebula prison, forcing the ancient guardians into hibernation. Without them, wars spread unchecked. Anna narrated, her voice mixing with First Light's thoughts. "The Bright Ones are just the latest species to try dominating others. There have been many like them." The images shifted, showing First Light's perspective of their recent battle. But now they could see what the creature saw, not just ships to destroy, but the lives within them, the consequences of each action. "They don't want to just fight for us," Anna explained. "They want to return to their original purpose, to prevent wars before they begin, to guide young species away from destruction." She smiled. "And they want humanity to help them." "Help them?" Miller asked. "How?" "As partners, like my bond with First Light, but on a larger scale. Humans would work with them, helping them understand new civilizations, making decisions about when to intervene." Her eyes glowed brighter. "They're offering to share their knowledge, their power, their purpose." Through the window, First Light's lights pulsed in patterns of hope and invitation. The other Star Devourers gathered around, their own lights joining in a symphony of color. "They're ancient and powerful," Anna continued, "but they learned from their imprisonment that power alone isn't enough. They need connection, understanding. They need us as much as we need them." Miller looked at the massive creatures, then at the stars beyond. How many wars could be prevented? How many civilizations could be saved? What do they want us to do first? He asked. Anna's smile widened. First, we free their remaining siblings from the nebula. Then, her eyes sparkled with starlight. Then we show the galaxy its guardians have returned. The Star Devorer's lights pulsed in agreement, painting space with their ancient promise of protection and peace. 1 year after the first battle for Earth, the view from humanity's new space station was very different. Star Devorers drifted peacefully through the solar system, each one now bonded with a human partner. First Light and Anna had become the model for this new alliance, showing others how humans and ancient guardians could work together. Miller stood at his familiar observation window, but now he watched training exercises instead of battles. A young human pilot, recently bonded, guided her Star Devorer through complex maneuvers. The massive creature moved with incredible precision, its lights pulsing with joy at mastering the new skills. The Bright Ones are requesting another peace meeting, Anna said, walking up beside him. She had changed over the year. Her skin permanently shimmered with a faint light, and her eyes held the wisdom of ages. But her smile remained purely human. Are they finally ready to accept the terms? Miller asked. Yes. After we stopped their last 3 attempts to build superweapons, they realized we weren't going to let them continue their expansion. She touched the window, and First Light moved closer, its huge form casting patterns of light across the station. They're beginning to understand that the galaxy has guardians again. Through the station's comm system, reports came in from across known space. More Star Devorers, freed from the nebula and bonded with human partners, patrolled distant sectors. They had already prevented 12 major wars, simply by appearing at the right moment and reminding aggressive species of the ancient laws they now enforced. The bonding program has a 98% success rate now, Anna continued. We've learned to identify humans who can handle a connection. Next month's class has 200 candidates. Miller nodded, watching Earth rotate slowly below them. The planet had changed too. With the Star Devorer's help, humanity had gained technologies they couldn't have imagined a year ago. But more importantly, they had gained purpose. The other species are starting to trust us, he said, not just fear the Star Devorers, but actually trust our judgment. Because we remember what it's like to be the ones needing protection, Anna replied. First Light says that's why humans make perfect partners. We understand both sides, the weak and the powerful. As if responding to its name, First Light released a gentle pulse of light that filled the station with rainbow colors. Other Star Devorers joined in, creating a spectacular light show against the backdrop of space. They're celebrating, Anna translated, laughing. They love having purpose again, having connection. She touched her temple, where the bond hummed constantly. They're happy. Miller looked out at the transformed solar system, peaceful, protected, filled with ancient guardians and their human partners. The war that had seemed hopeless a year ago had led them to something far greater than victory. What's next? He asked. Anna's eyes glowed brighter as she shared First Light's vision. There are still parts of the galaxy we haven't explored, species who don't know they're protected yet. And she smiled mysteriously. First Light says there are other ancient allies still sleeping out there, waiting to be found. Above them, the Star Devorers continued their dance of light, celebrating a new age of peace, one guided by the combined wisdom of humanity and their ancient guardians. The future, once so dark, now shone as bright as the stars themselves.